Good morning. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Let's take a deep breath in and let that go. Another deep, cleansing breath and letting it go, signaling to your central nervous system that you are safe, you are protected, you are divinely watched over. You have guardian angels, God, spirit. Nothing can harm you. There's nothing to worry about, nothing to fear. When you build up your faith, the outside world has no hold over you. Bob Proctor used to say, act as if. Act as if you're already healthy. Act as if you're already happy. Act as if you already have the love of your life. If you act as if your goal was already achieved, you get into the state of being, you get into the spirit of the goal already attained. And the key is when you act as if, your subconscious mind doesn't know that you're pretending, that it's fantasy, that it's your imagination. Your subconscious mind obeys. It 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 obeys orders. When you say to yourself, I am healthy, I am happy, I am divinely blessed, I am divinely protected, I love my life and life loves me. When you get into that energetic feeling as if it's true, your subconscious mind just follows the instructions. It goes looking for evidence. The reticular activating system in your brain filters out what doesn't match what's in harmony. So if you believe you're divinely protected, nothing can harm you, everything is going the way it's supposed to go, you're feeling as if life is wonderful, your brain looks for evidence to support that. Your brain will say, oh, yes, life is awesome. Life is wonderful. It will match. The outer world will match what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And pretty soon the outer world will reflect that. Freedom comes when we stop being what other people think we should be and we start acting like the person we want to be. Now, that comes from Brian Proctor's book, My Father Knew the Secret. So I knew Brian and Bob Proctor, and I would go to seminars with them, and they would teach the same things. But the more you studied, the more you heard it, the more often you got in that energy and acted as if it was true. It became true. Your whole world would change because you really started to believe what they said. You really started to practice what they told you to practice. And when you thought and felt and acted as if whatever you wanted was true, your whole life turned around. It was transformed. Now that's why I became a Proctor Gallagher consultant, because it made such a difference in my life and I wanted to share it with the world. So I want you to think about what you really desire. What would it be like if you didn't have to worry about where the money was coming from? You didn't have to worry if you were smart enough, if you had what it takes to do what you wanted, because you are a spiritual being. We live on three planes of understanding: spiritual, intellectual and physical. You're not your physical body. You're obviously not an invisible spirit. You are a spiritual entity, a presence living in a human container, a physical meat suit, a body. And that body is yours for this lifetime. You came into this world into a particular body that has grown and changed and developed. You were a spark of energy that grew into a fetus, then born into a baby, then a toddler. As you grew and changed, you learned lessons. You had failures and you learned from those failures. Now, as you've grown through adolescent and adulthood, the more you continue to grow and learn and change, the more life becomes wonderful for you. You continue to learn lessons. You continue to decide, what do you really want, and go after that. And no, you shouldn't know how. You shouldn't know it all. When you stop learning, you stop growing, and when you stop growing, you start dying. The mind is the greatest power in all creation. You can use the power of your mind for getting what you truly desire. Most people use their minds against themselves. They look at the outside world and say, look at all this crap that's going on. And then they buy into it and they feel bad. They think thoughts that make them feel worse, and their body just follows along. The body is an instrument of the mind. It does whatever the mind tells it to do. So if you've been talking about being tired and miserable and life is going downhill, and look at the evidence outside, of course you're going to see evidence of violence and terror and garbage and homelessness and poverty, because that's what the reticular activating system in your brain is looking for when you're in that vibrational energy, when you're thinking from lack and limitation and fear. Your brain filters out all the lovely things because you wouldn't want to think you're crazy. So your subconscious mind shows you what you're in harmony with. And the good thing about the subconscious mind is, rather than running on a negative loop and seeing what's not going your way and buying into that feeling and acting as if you're afraid and worried and not having enough and not worthy, then your brain shows you evidence. You want to break that pattern, stop that loop, and look at what you do want. Bob Proctor would say, what others think of you is none of your business. At first, I was appalled by that. I thought, of course, what other people think of me is my business. They're talking about me, my life. It's personal. Well, it's not personal because you think thoughts about other people that are what you believe them to be, and you could be totally off the mark. There are people that you like and people that you don't like. There are things that you love, and other people think you're crazy for wanting that. You worry about you, not what else is going on in the world, not what other people think you should do. What do you really want? Some people want to live in a penthouse suite in New York City and fly all over the world and live in luxury and have multiple homes and travel everywhere. And some people love being at the lake, fishing, swimming, rafting, doing things in a calm manner. Some people want to have their own business, and others just are comfortable in nature. You shouldn't want luxury because other people have it, and you shouldn't want just enough to get by on just because you don't know how to create more in your life. Whatever you want, whatever is in your heart, whatever you desire is meant for you. It wouldn't be a want, a desire. You wouldn't have it in your mind, in your heart, unless it was meant to come into your experience. So if you have a big dream, a goal, something you want to accomplish, don't dismiss it because you don't know how. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about what other people are going to think of you, because your subconscious mind, when you practice thinking about what you want and visualizing it, getting an image, you don't have to create the whole picture. You don't have to think about everything that's going to go right in your life. You can just choose one special moment, a reconciliation with a family member, holding the love of your life in your arms. If you want children, holding a newborn baby in your arms. If you have an idea of inventing something, seeing it complete in physical reality, how wonderful you feel, how proud you are, how totally absorbed in that moment. When you are so emotionally involved in a particular moment of how you would feel, how that would look, you capture that in your mind. You hold the image, and your body is totally in alignment. Your brain will look for evidence. Things will start to move in your outside world. And one day that scene, that moment happens in your physical reality, and it feels like deja vu. It matches your heart's desire, the vision that you hold in your mind. When you become a match, when you spend time in that feeling as if it's done, the cells of recognition in your brain look for evidence to match it. Brian Proctor writes in his book, in chapter 8 on mindset, act as if. Freedom comes when we stop being what other people think we should be and start acting like the person we want to be. Have you ever heard the saying that if you tell yourself a lie often enough, you will start to believe it? The basic premise is that your subconscious mind will accept whatever you impress upon it. Unlike your conscious mind, which can reject thoughts and ideas. Your subconscious emotional mind only accepts the images you feed it with emotion and repetition. Brian Proctor writes, as far back as I remember, Dad would say, Brian, act as if you are already the person you want to become. He said it because he knew that if I learned to create from within, that the subconscious mind would not know the difference between fact and fiction. And if I acted like the person I wanted to become, I would eventually become that person. This holds true for all of us. Now, we're not saying to change who you are. We're saying change the way you think and feel. Act as if you are happy, healthy, wealthy, loved, respected, whatever it is that you desire. And the universe will put it all together so that becomes your real experience, your reality. You're not a different person, but you've changed the way you think, feel, and act, and then your results change. It was Alfred Adler, the Austrian medical doctor, psychotherapist, and founder of the School of Individual Psychology, who first coined the phrase act as if. It was in the 1920s, and he developed a strategy for his clients to practice roles that differed from their dysfunctional behaviors or their current realities. And people often call it role playing. I used to do that when I worked in a government insurance agency. We would practice taking claims, we would practice how to handle irate customers so that it would be easier when it happened in real life. Well, you can use that same kind of behavioral tool to improve your reality. And it's not fake it till you make it. That's not what is meant. It comes from the idea of act as if. Brian Proctor says, I get the cynicism because when used literally, the term can conjure up a sense of someone being a total imposter, trying to lie or cheat their way to success. However, these claims are missing the point of this exercise. Acting as if is about changing your behavior to align with the person that you are working to become. This is personal development deeply embodied. Change your behavior. Changing your behavior first will change what you feel and how you think about yourself. Brian Proctor tells the example of his dad having a love for fine tailored suits back in the 1960s when Bob Proctor first started his cleaning business. He scraped together his last few dollars to buy a wool suit, and that was his one and only suit that he had for the first few years in business. And it wasn't high quality, so it started to be scratchy and uncomfortable. But Bob Proctor loved the look of it, but he got tired of how it felt. And he got tired of having the same look every day. One day, Bob Proctor heard an interview on the radio with a famous person, and that person had over 20 custom tailored suits in his closet. Bob Proctor thought, how wonderful would that be? Until that time, he had never heard of anyone with more than one or two suits. Something in that interview changed his perspective. He decided then and there that if he reached a specific target each month, he would go out and get himself a custom tailored suit. He honored that agreement he made with himself, and it wasn't long before he had a closet full of suits. In the beginning, he had to act like the person that deserved and could afford all those suits. But in no time, he became that person. You see, he didn't go out and buy a closet full of suits. He imagined himself being that, worthy of that, and he made a commitment to himself that when he reached a specific target each month, then he would buy the suit. So it's not about sitting back and wishing and hoping and buying what you want. It's using your imagination to feel how it would feel to convince yourself that you are worthy, that you deserve what it is you want. And then be open to ideas and opportunities as those, as you're feeling as if you're worthy and deserving and seeing yourself the way you want to be, you get into a flow. Energy starts to open up and you get new ideas. You can't think new ideas from the state of fear, doubt, worry, and scarcity. You have to be calm. You have to feel well-being. You have to feel at ease. That's why it's so important to take the time to sit quietly, calmly, and breathe deeply and imagine yourself in that state of being happy, healthy, wealthy, a closet full of new suits, a new vehicle, the love of your life. Whatever you desire, spend time in your imagination and in your feeling state of being already there, visualizing, practicing it, rehearsing it. And then taking action on the ideas that come to you. Try this, try this as an experiment and then practice it so long that it becomes your way of life. Whenever doubt or fear creeps into your thoughts, take a quiet moment and think to yourself, what would I be doing if I had my goal already accomplished? Commit to persisting in that way of life. Be disciplined in a daily practice of calming your mind, thinking about what you really want as if it's already done, visualizing it as already accomplished. You might only spend 5 minutes doing this, but take a moment to think about what that special moment would mean to you. How would that restore your family? How would that accomplish your goal? How do you feel now that it's done? Get a picture in your mind. Feel it so deeply that your subconscious mind goes looking for the evidence because you believe it's true. Your cells of recognition will show it to you. Remember, there are 3 planes of understanding. First, the spiritual, invisible, imaginary plane, and using your intellect, tapping into the energy, pretending, acting as if you already are that person, then it shows up in your physical reality. You might take the time to write about it. What we give attention to in our life grows. So be careful and purposeful about what you are focusing on. decide that you will be the one to define who you are. Brian Proctor gives us a practice. He tells us, remember that you get to choose the company you want to keep, and that negativity keeps company just as much as positivity does. So when you notice your negative thoughts coming in, say, stop it, we're not going there, and remind yourself, your subconscious mind simply follows the orders of what you're thinking and feeling. So write about what you want, think about what you want, and more importantly, practice feeling that. Keep in mind that act as if when you're not there yet is not always easy to do, because we all have friends and family who have their stories about who we are. To present them with a different version of us is uncomfortable. In fact, often when we try to be something different, those closest to us will be the first ones to try to bring us down. And they do that because they feel threatened. They may or may not even realize what they're doing. Bob Proctor would say, people don't resist change, they resist being changed. And when you present yourself differently to those close to you, you're making them uncomfortable. You're shifting their world and creating change. This is the real test. When you enter this phase of judgment from those you love and those you are closest to, how badly do you want this? When we feel judged, that becomes a moment in time when we need to hold tight to our vision and act with confidence and determination to be that better version of ourselves, regardless. The ability to hold the vision and act as if, despite how it feels when the sharpness of others' opinions cut deeply, is when you know you are aligning your behavior with your belief. What do you really want? Take some time to be in that energy, to get into the state of already being there in your mind. Act as if you are that, and it starts to change your whole world. Thank you for joining me in this morning mindfulness practice. Create the life that you truly desire. Act as if you are already that. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning at 7. Thank you.